Hi, it's Marcy at Geode Yoga and Fitness, and I have with me Betty today, and we're going to take you through some Chaturanga exercises to prevent shoulder and bicep injury, because I hear this a lot, especially if you're in a class where there are a lot of Chaturanga, Dandasana being cued. So if you have two blocks, get two blocks. If not, you could use a towel or blankets to roll up in place. So the positioning of these will be one between the palms of your hands and another one being under your thighs. So this is not so much in support unless you need it while we're doing this drill, but more as a guide of where your body should stop on the low plank. So when you come from high to low plank. So Betty, let's begin in a high plank pose. So place your palms beside your block and let's bring your feet up, take them a little bit wider. So I want you to fire into your thighs. So bring energy into your thighs, bring your hips down just a little bit more. Now your palms, your shoulders should be directly over your palms, and then puff up your chest. So in other words, push through your shoulders, lifting the back of your heart towards the ceiling. So belly is in, there's a lot to think about here. But once you gain this upper body strength, I think you'll be okay. Now begin to inhale, shift forward slightly, and then twist your palms of your hands. So you're twisting your palms away from each other so that brings your elbows in as you come down halfway. So low plank. Now we can rest here for a moment just so that you can be in observation of where your elbows are in conjunction to your upper torso. So this is where you want to stop. And then to lift up for upward facing dog, you just push through your palms, lifting your heart up. Now, if you're one of those that likes to reach your neck, looking towards the sky or the ceiling, I have a little bit of deterioration in my neck, so I don't do that. But draw your shoulders away from your ears. So you're still activating your shoulders. Belly is in. Now feel free to untuck your toes. I've kind of learned a new method of keeping the toes tucked, and I find that this takes the dump out of the low back. So you might want to practice that. And then to come back to a downward facing dog, begin to lift with your hips first. So you're keeping the shoulders active, so you're not really using the upper torso to lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths. And Betty, if you're okay with that, we will flow through that again. So let's come to a high plank pose. Don't come quite up as high on your toes yet. There you go, sinking those hips down a little bit lower. So Betty, if you could just lift the back of your heart just a little bit more towards the sky. Now, did you see how that activation puffed up? Now shift your weight forward and then twist your palms of your hands. So you're actually twisting outward, and that kind of brings your elbows in just slightly and then lower down. Now stay active in your shoulders. See where Betty needs a little bit of work. So this is what I'm talking about. And she doesn't mind me using her as an example because Betty suffers from a lot of back trouble. So if she could get this down and just be mindful of how her shoulders, if you noticed how her shoulder blades came together, that is where the weight is being dumped into the front part of the body. And this is just an area where she needs to work, and she acknowledges that, and that's good. So let's come to an upward facing dog. So just push directly up, all the while still being mindful of where your elbows are, and then press back into downward facing dog. So I think we'll try this again. If you would like to have the blocks there, fine, as a guidance. I suggest you keep them there and just continue to practice this so that you can get a feel for your proper alignment. So let's come back to a high plank pose. Now, mindful of the hips. Hips are down, fire in those thighs, belly is in. Activate those shoulders, really push through those shoulders. I want you to maintain that activation as you lower down. Keep that activation so you're not dumping into your front body. Push up, upward facing dog. Good. And then exhale, downward facing dog. So we have some work to do. And I would suggest using these blocks as a tool. And thank you, Betty, for allowing me to point that out to you. But Betty definitely has some work to do on activating those shoulders. That prevents a bicep injury, but as well, frozen shoulder. I've been hearing this so much. So if you're in a classroom where they're cueing for Chaturanga, 10 and 15 Chaturangas, and you're tired, you just go from high plank to downward facing dog. You don't have to prove anything to yourself But being mindful and listen to your body and just admit when you're tired, and you can skip that one. There's no judgment, especially in yoga. I hope this helps. Oh, thanks, Betty.